Welcome to HD Nation, your guide to the best in HD content and the best in home theater gear, no matter what your budget is. All the money, none of the money. We want you to have an amazing home theater experience. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Herron.
Oh my goodness, fun this week.
Really?
PlayStation 4 Thursday night, Xbox One next week, and obviously they both have some kind of designs on your living room other than for gaming. We're going to talk big screens, optimum viewing distances, whether 4K is something you should just wait forever for. Some good stuff coming up in this week in HD Nation. Netflix.com/Techzilla, that's the other show we do, is a sponsor. But we've both been paying for Netflix since long before they came anywhere near one of our shows to do advertising. And we were actually excited about an announcement this morning.
Totally. I gotta say, hot off the Twitter feed, one of our viewers actually commented, @Khalid, his Twitter feed had one word to describe Netflix's self-described biggest update in Netflix history to our TV experience. That one word, sweet. Basically, the new features will be, they're up in the eye candy as far as improved menus that will also feature more context for each displayed title.
Right.
The search will become more visual, and it will include not only results for titles and actors and directors as well. Netflix profiles will now be supported across all devices.
Oh, thank goodness.
And support for pointer-based navigation on smart TVs. That immediately had me thinking of LG's Magic Remote, the Wii-like controller. But I imagine Samsung's Touch Control as well will be similarly supported. Updates start rolling out today, and it will take about 2 weeks to reach all of the compatible devices out there. The newer devices, like the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox 360, and the Roku 3 will be among the very first devices. Also, the TVs that are smart-enabled, the newest ones, will get that update as well. Roku 2 owners will get the love early next year. Now, I think that's pretty good. For folks already paying for the service, you're going to get some new functionality to it. And with the recent rollout, I think of the Super HD feature to more markets. That's just, I haven't paid any more for the service, but I'm getting more out of it, and I like that.
I'm still waiting for the ability to lock down the kids channel to only programming I will let my child watch, because there's a lot of crap programming out there designed to sell toys that I will not let the small children see.
But a nightmare.
Do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a unified experience across all the different devices? Because that's what always kind of blows my mind sometimes when I go from like this to this to this to this, and there's always little differences between different platforms.
And I've always found on the game consoles you get usually the best experience in terms of the high performance of a game console, in terms of a computing device. Typically, they then tend to experiment more with the other features in terms of either graphical updates or just testing out new features first in those platforms. And then it'll be nice to see this just spread across to other devices as well. But for me personally, it's been about the integration with my smartphone and what I'm using on the main TV itself. Being able to use my smartphone as the remote control for my Netflix experience. That has had me, or enabled me really just to use it more and use it easier, and to have things like being able to queue up videos ahead of time and just have things play the way I want. And even just that simple remote control function already has me kind of sold on the whole, I don't know, having my mobile device in the living room with the box that's supplying the Netflix experience. It's all good stuff.
Obviously, we're big fans of Netflix. I spent a lot of time in it. And hey, look, Netflix helps keep us in business and bring the show to you. Netflix.com/Techzilla. Go check it out. If you're not a freaking subscriber already, just go take the free trial. Netflix.com/Techzilla. In other news, if you're a sports fan or a Disney fan and you have a Roku, be excited. Watch ESPN and the Watch Disney channel coming to Roku, actually bringing live streaming TV to the Roku platform. The downside is this part here. Just like HBO Go, they require authentication from an affiliated cable TV provider. So if you were cheering that you're going to be able to watch stuff on ESPN, you're still going to need cable to do it. Yeah.
Unreal.
Sorry.
Hey, Kevin Pereira, he's a beloved co-host of GeForce Attack of the show. And
The show's gone.
The show's gone. Actually, the station's almost gone as of January.
He is the founder of SuperCreative.tv. He tweeted out a request for some big screen guidance that a bunch of people forwarded to us. Looking for a 90-inch plus television set. Amazon has a few. Nothing over 90 though. Anyone have a recommended site or brand? There is one 90-inch television.
You're right. There's only one.
There's like a dozen 85, like 75 80-inch televisions. At least a dozen.
There's a few options there, but Sharp Electronics, that's what you're talking about. The $8,000 90-inch 1080p screen is as big as they're going to get this year, at least. Now, the good thing about LCD is it's bright picture, but if you want to go big screen, like beyond 90 inches, give up on projection, and or no, don't give up on projection. Actually, it's time to give projection your full attention.
Let's put this in context. My projection system cost me, like my 100-inch screen, my 100 to 110-inch screen cost me less than $2,000. Now, admittedly, I bought an Optimum projector that was refurbished. That was only $700, so I saved a couple $100 there. And I bought a screen off of Amazon for another $200, but it is motorized and tied in to my universal remote control. But the truth is, for less than 1/4 of the price of a 90-inch LCD flat panel, you can have a 100-inch screen that looks great, at least until you open up all the windows on a sunny day.
That's the good point to remind folks about projectors, is that the screen size is variable depending on how you install the projector and set it up. It can be, as small of an image as you want, up to relatively large screen sizes like 80 inches and beyond. Now, for that same $8,000, there are many projector and screen combinations that would give you superb image quality while providing more flexibility for that supersized viewing experience. One of my favorite projectors out there, and one of the best I've ever tested actually, is from a company called JVC. And they have a reference series projector like this brand spanking new DLA RS49U projector. You pair that with, say, a nice screen that's optimized for your room. And since we're going to be within budget, probably, I'd say, the first place I want to go to is Stewart Residential. They have a Cinecurve screen that is, here, let me scroll down to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about here.
Obscene. In the nice use of the word.
Oh, just absolutely wonderful. It gives you a nice curved experience. If you're filling a room with a screen, this is probably one of the best ways I could think of doing it.
Now, I look at Stewart and I think, one, this is the best quality in the world. Two, they make the screens. Like, if you have all of the money in Hollywood, Stewart made your screen and probably installed it for you. Is that screen like $8,000 or is it like $2,000?
It depends. Well, having the Cinecurve design with the custom-built frame, that can quickly ramp up in price. But they have more affordable screens for sure. And the nice thing is with a company like Stewart, they can also optimize the screen for your particular projector, especially if you're looking for something like acoustically transparent screens, which are perforated. Those perforated holes can actually create interference patterns with some projectors, depending on how they're perforated, basically, that pattern. And if you optimize that punch pattern properly for the individual projectors, you can minimize those artifacts. And that's one thing it's nice to go to a company like Stewart. And there are other great screen companies out there as well, but they're the ones I'm probably the most familiar with in terms of their ability to say, oh, we've dealt with that particular projector on a variety of our products. Here's what we would recommend for that. And they can also tweak things like how reflective or not the screen is for your given viewing environment. Also, anytime that you're pushing the limits of what a particular display technology can do, be it the screen size, the resolution, or capabilities, just simply be prepared to pay more for it. Now, compare that 90-inch Sharp screen with Sharp's 80-inch screens, which can be had for less than half of that in some cases. And that would be one question I'd ask myself as well. Would you rather have one 90-inch LCD or two 80-inch LCDs? And
or one 80-inch and two 55-inch LCDs, or one 80-inch and pay your property taxes for the year,
or have the projector for the super big screen experience and have an affordable LCD as a backup for when it's just not practical, or if you're having a room that is well lit during the day and darker at night. That's another option for you. Also, make sure you have a room that is ready for a supersized HDTV. We're talking not only appropriate viewing distances, but heat management. These large screen TVs will warm a room up faster than you can shake a stick at, which I'm really not sure what that means, but it's not as bad as plasma used to be, or still is. Plasmas tend to be good space heaters as far as display technologies go. A 90-inch LCD is going to warm any room up, so make sure you've got...
Fortunately, my projector doesn't warm the room up nearly as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
Although it helps in the winter.
Depending on the room temperature, you will see the condensed air coming out of it quite nicely, but good options though. And for an $8,000 plus budget, and you want big screen technology, consider projection. You can make them as bright as you want, and you can have it, paired with the optimal screen for the right room, and it can look beautiful. And it'll be better than any flat panel TV out there right now.
I still, I got to say, projector, white painted wall, you're started, right? I mean, as simple as that sounds, but it's amazing how good that. I mean, that's how we started in our house. Then we finally found a projector screen that we could afford that was motorized. You don't have to spend all the money, but if you are spending all the money, I wouldn't buy a 90-inch flat panel. I would buy a projector if you can make it fit in the room. Kevin, buy the projector, dude. Just rearrange everything in your room and put up blackout curtains so you can use it during the day.
Also, retractable screens, screens that blend in with your decor. There's so many options.
Screens that come out of furniture, screens that come down from the ceiling, televisions that come up from furniture. There's just so many options out there. Options, we should probably do the world's least graceful segue into viewing distance, which comes from Adan Garcia G. At Adan Garcia G tweets, at Patrick Norton, what would you recommend as a perfect viewing distance for a 70-inch TV? Thanks, and love the show on podcast iTunes. Thanks, man. So the biggest thing is, like, when you're shopping with a television, let's say with your parents, right? And Mom, if you're watching, don't take this personally, but you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Your parents go, 46 inches, 52 inches, that's ridiculous. We had a 30-inch television for a decade. Yeah, you do. But here's the thing. There's something called the Kell factor. The higher the resolution on the screen, the more comfortable you are sitting close to it, right? Or the more close to it you can sit comfortably. So we've gone from like 37-inch televisions being huge to 55-inch televisions being kind of affordable and normal. But what gets interesting is you start looking at the recommendations, right? Toshiba, for example, obviously a television company, obviously have done a lot of research, and they have their seat-to-screen viewing distance guide. This is kind of a classic one. They go up to 65 inches. They say their minimum viewing distance is 6.5 feet. Their maximum viewing distance is 10.3 feet. Crutchfield has another guide. And they're saying for a 70-inch screen, it's 8.75 feet to 14.75 feet. And it's kind of funny because these are really short distances when you start thinking about it.
If you want to, though, perceive all of the detail coming off of a screen, and you have normal vision, whatever that means.
20/20.
Yeah, say 20/20. You need to be sitting close enough to actually perceive all that detail, but not so close that you're actually seeing the individual pixels of the screen. There's a sweet spot, so to speak. And
well, it's funny. We've talked about, like, hey, you're buying a television for a bar or the rumpus room, and you're going to be 25 feet from it and half distracted doing something else. A 720p television is going to be fine because you can't see the difference between 720p and 1080p when you're 20 feet away from the television.
It's a good point. And it also goes down to the content as well.
Yeah.
And part of the difference is that the viewing angle, what's considered acceptable example for the viewing distance, approximates the viewing angle, need to be able to see that pixel level detail.
Well, yeah.
You know,
you want to get your nerd on, like, go to Wikipedia, go to the Optimum HDTV viewing distance articles, and start reading about fixed distance calculations, diagonal measurements versus 2.5, 1.6, 1.2, basically 20, 30, 40 degree viewing angles. There's a marginal consensus that, like, you know, 30 degree, 32 degree viewing angles are kind of, you know, where you want to be, but it's a viewing angle from my seat to the screen, not from the screen to my seat. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny, silly as that sounds, but the idea is that, you know, the more narrow your viewing angle, the less detail you see if you go far away, as ridiculous as that sounds.
No,
right?
You know what? It's just a good reminder that there is some wiggle room in all of these because there is no set definition as far as how good is human vision.
Right.
I mean, there's some accepted generalities, but none of it's really hard proven, and they think that people can see better than they actually realize. But when it comes to screens, one of the most popular charts out there is from a gentleman named Carlton Bale, who has this great chart that's been around forever, and he keeps updating it with new technologies like the new 4K 2160p screens. But here we have the bottom at a 70-inch screen size. For when we're talking about Blu-ray material, 1080p content, it could be anywhere from about 8 feet to roughly about a little over, maybe about 12 feet or so. So that 8 to 12 foot viewing distance will give the average person the best opportunity to soak up the detail with high quality content like Blu-ray video. And this is also assuming there are many other factors really that can affect how you perceive image quality. Viewing distance, of course. The screen setup. Is it overscanning and destroying half the detail to begin with? Well, you probably want to sit a little further back. Is it calibrated properly? The individual's eyesight, I can't even begin to tell you. A person who's an airline pilot might have significantly better vision than I may have without my glasses on, or it's good to know who the customer is in terms of what they can actually see. And all of those things factor into, you know, how good you can perceive the detail being presented. So it's the display device, it's the person sitting there, it's the room environment, it all adds up together. So these are good recommendations, though.
I do love the THX recommendations where they want like the diagonal to you to be 40 degrees, which puts you at a 60-inch screen no more than 9 feet away from it.
See, they wanted to take up enough of your vision where you are part of that content, and that's
the
part
most
of it
immersive cinematic experience. Oh my goodness. Speaking of big screen, HD TVs, and big budgets, what about super affordable LCD flat panels? That's one of the questions we asked the Wirecutter's Geoff Morrison. Geoff Morrison reviews home theater gear and consumer electronics for CNET, Forbes, our beloved The Wirecutter, and he joins us here today. Geoff, welcome to HC Nation.
Thanks.
This is
I love the best $500 TV. You wrote that up for Brian over at the Wirecutter.
Yeah. That was a big project.
Were you surprised at how good a $500 HDTV is these days?
Actually, I really was. I mean, I've been reviewing TVs for over 10 years, and the quality has gotten so good that even at $500, you can get a pretty great looking TV.
And I think was it a Panasonic you picked as the best for $500?
Samsung, actually.
Samsung?
Yeah, I've narrowed it down to a there was one Panasonic model and a Samsung model, and they're both plasmas. And I ran them through all the tests that I usually do and compared everything you can on like contrast ratio, color accuracy, brightness, everything. And the Samsung was a great television that happened to be $500.
51-inch HDTV?
Yeah.
For $500.
Yeah.
And it looks good.
Yeah.
What do you give up versus like a $1,500?
Not much. I mean, if you go up in price, there are certainly better looking TVs, no question. Sure. But the quality that you get at $500 to going up to $1,000, it's not as big of a difference as you'd think.
Right.
The $1,000 television isn't twice as good. Like, it is better, but not twice as good.
The sort of curve gets more subtle as you go along.
Yeah, exactly. So, the contrast ratio is better in the higher end models. The brighter the resolution, of course, is higher. The $500 TV is only 720p, and the more expensive ones are all 1080p. But for most people, when you're sitting 9 or 10 feet away, you're not really going to see that difference.
But it's still a $500 HDTV.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Do you expect that will that sort of model be around for much longer, or are they sort of tailing off?
It's a good question. I mean, Panasonic obviously announced last week that they're not going to be making plasmas anymore, which is pretty sad, actually, because they had some fantastic televisions, and this past year especially had amazing TVs. Samsung has announced that they will be doing plasma in 2014, so hopefully we'll see a new version of this TV next year. Hopefully after that too, but who knows?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell whether the rumors of the plasma device at Panasonic are sort of exaggerated or actually going to happen this time.
Right. And this one, I mean, Panasonic definitely said for now that they're out, and Samsung and LG said that they're still going to do it, but they're going to do it because they probably already had those products in the works. What they're going to be doing for 2015, who knows? The hope is that by 2015, OLED will drop in price enough that that'll be a good alternative for people who want really good picture quality. But if we're stuck with only LCD for a couple of years until that happens, that would be disappointing.
Just probably better words. HDMI 2.0, you excited or meh?
Well, it's interesting. HDMI 2.0, upgrading from 1.4, you get more frames per second, possibly with 4K, a few other little things, but for the most part, people really don't need to worry about it right now. The added resolution, if you get a 4K TV with HDMI 2.0, and if you have a source that has HDMI 2.0, then yeah, that's great, and you get all these extra things. But for most people, it's not really going to matter.
We should also point out if you actually have 4K content.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you excited about 4K, or you just think it's a complete waste of time?
I've written a number of articles.
He said in a leading question.
The article that I wrote that got most play was I said why 4K TVs are stupid. Most people who commented on that article didn't actually read it. They just looked at the title and immediately went to the comment section. What I was specifically saying is that the added resolution in small TVs isn't useful. You can't really see it from where most people sit from their TVs. In big TVs, like 85-inch TVs, projectors, that kind of stuff, yeah, 4K is amazing because you can actually see it. So the 4K TV thing at this point, I think, is mostly just marketing. And you can get a much better television for less money that's only 1080p. But it looks much better than the 4K TVs.
Because I mean, Robert got the Seiki, and we're all getting excited. And we're like 30 frame per second game because we're going to get a Titan. We're going to do 4K. No, we're not.
Yeah,
it's 30 frames per second.
Right, which actually HDMI 2.0 will fix. Is that you can do 60 frames per second 4K, and right now the only thing that really will do 60 frames per second 4K is a really high-end computer, maybe if you're lucky. And so that is great. But again, even with that CK, you have to be sitting so close to it to be able to see that extra resolution that I don't think most people would do that. If you want to sit that close, hey, by all means, go for it. But
buy the 32-inch Asus. Expensive cables? You come out of an audiophile background.
I do.
Big fan of expensive cables?
Yes and no. Mostly no.
Okay.
So with HDMI cables specifically, there isn't going to be a difference in performance between a cheap cable and an expensive cable.
One of my favorite emails of all time was somebody telling me why we had to stop recommending monoprice HDMI cables because HDMI was a serious transport mechanism, and I was like, it's zeros and ones, dude. It's the signal goes or it doesn't go.
There's so many levels of why that's not. It doesn't make any difference. You know, this is with the audio, it's error-corrected, packetized data. With the video, it can either be completely wrong, and then it's either not going to work, or you'll have like sparkles, which look like snow or something, or it's perfect.
Right.
There's no in between, and so there's no linear correlation between the signal quality and the picture quality. You know, the signal quality can continue to get worse until it just isn't anymore. So with HDMI, definitely get cheap. If it works, it's perfect. But where I'm kind of is with like speaker cable. We did a big test for the wire cutter. One of my colleagues, Brent Butterworth, did a bunch of tests for About.com.
I worked with Brent for a very short period of time, 1,000 years ago.
Nice. He knows more about audio than anybody.
He's frightening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I trust his guesses more than other people's truths. I mean, yeah. So with speaker cable, there can be a difference. There's different speaker cables can actually produce a measurable and audible difference.
Really? Measurable?
Yeah. But not necessarily having anything to do with price.
Really?
Yeah. So you can still have a cheap cable, two cheap cables might measure differently. Which one you like better is going to be more subjective. Like, just because it measures differently doesn't mean like, well, this one is better than, it's just you might like it better.
When you say measure differently, more low end, more high end, more?
Could be. It varies on the cable because, so with speaker cable, it's a part of an electrical circuit. So you have all the drivers in a speaker on one side of it, and you have the amplifier on the other side of it, and the speaker cable is part of that electrical circuit. So changing that speaker cable is going to change how all of those pieces interact with each other. It's very subtle. Very subtle. So literally doing anything else to your system is going to have a bigger effect than changing your speaker cable.
So moving your speakers, changing your source, changing your amplifier.
Yeah, all of those things. Moving your speakers.
Right.
You know, adding a couch. Like, I mean, anything you want is going to change. But if you have everything else is perfect and you want to see if you can get a little bit of different sound out of it, then yes, different speaker cable could in fact have a difference. And so we did listening tests with some 16 gauge, some 14 gauge, some 12 gauge cable, and there was a big difference between the 16 and the 14 gauge and the 12 gauge. Like audible. Blind testing, back and forth.
Same brand of cable, same manufacturer?
Different. Some of them, they were different brands and the same brands.
Okay.
And the ones that, so we did this test with $50,000, I think there were Krell speakers and all this expensive gear, and we did all this testing, and we decided, like, yes, this 12 gauge monoprice speaker cable for, I think it was like $30 or something for 50 feet. I don't know. I think it was $16 for 50 feet. Sounded great. We picked it each time. We're like, yeah, this is great. We're like, yes, this is awesome.
I bought the right cable.
Just out of curiosity, let's throw some cheap speakers in there. And so the biggest difference was between one of the 14 gauge cables and this 12 gauge. We did that test, the 14 gauge cable and the 12 gauge cable, and put them all back and forth. We're like, yep, we still hear a difference. This is great. Nope, it was the wrong cable, or the different cable, I should say. So with the cheap cable, with the cheap speakers, we ended up preferring the other cable. So which was frustrating, but it also proved the point is that there's no such thing as the perfect speaker cable. It's just the perfect speaker cable to your ears with your gear. So for most people, we just say, look, just get this 12 gauge monoprice. It's great, it's cheap, it's fine. If you want to be all tweaky about it and you want to spend the time, use that as a base, and then buy a couple different types of speaker cable, try them out, see which one sounds the best.
It's so hard to A/B speaker cable though.
Oh, it is. You need at least one extra person to sit back at the speaker and go like,
that would be nice.
Yeah. So if you want to hire someone to do that, that's great. But or I don't know, it's probably why people have kids, right? Just have their kids do it.
Just gonna buy the monoprice and not think about it too much.
That was my advice in that article. Yeah.
What's your next roundup?
I'm working on $500 projectors.
Cool.
Yeah, and they are surprisingly good.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're 1080p?
No. That's one thing. Most of them are 1280 by 800.
Okay.
And so that's what you give up between like a $1,000 projector and a $500 projector. But color accuracy, contrast ratio, I mean, all these other like picture quality aspects other than resolution are actually really good. So for someone who doesn't want to spend $1,000 on a projector or more, these $500 ones are actually really good.
where can people find that review when it hits the street?
That'll be up on Wirecutter hopefully sometime this month.
Geoff, thank you so much.
Great being here.
At TechWriter Geoff on Twitter, CNET Forums, The Wirecutter. Go check it out. It's good stuff, people.
Hey, following up on the region-free Blu-ray player and DVD player question we featured recently, several of our sharp viewers chimed in with solid suggestions. HD Nation viewer named Chris mentioned buying modified players from a company named 220 Electronics, serving their customers since 1979 out of their Illinois headquarters. Chris mentioned how he picked up a modified Sony BDP S3100 a while back, and that his player also requires that the Blu-ray regions be switched manually, but the process is fairly simple. And it's kind of interesting that this company is located here in the United States of America. Chris also mentioned, oh, I got to pull up this real quick.
I got it.
Oh, you did?
It's a shot from Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, which is a magnificent movie and a wonderful Blu-ray. But playing with the wrong region code enabled, some studios have a good sense of humor.
That's a pretty cool message.
Yeah, we hoped you wouldn't have to see this screen. This Blu-ray region is encoded Europe. Your player must be a different region. We apologize profusely, but we have been forced to encode this disc region, be it the express insistence of the film's licensor, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. But it basically tells you to frickin' go find a multi-region Blu-ray player and fix this problem.
Chris also mentioned two other possible sources for region-free action, but he's not tried them out personally. One was world-import.com and bombayelectronics.com. Those are two places you could check out. That,
nice.
Like he said, he hasn't checked them out, but he has checked out 220electronics.com.
Good stuff. Thank you, Chris. 220-electronics.com.
I'm going there today to check out what they have to offer. And it's in Illinois, in a place I probably have driven right past a couple of times, considering
there's a lot of Illinois you haven't seen yet.
There is, but I've seen quite a bit of it. So.
Where my parents are?
And my mom's from there.
Your mom's from Illinois?
Yeah.
I learn something new every week on this show.
Babes.
I had no idea.
Had a beer thrown at me at Wrigley Field. Good times.
That's classy. That's it for this episode of HD Nation. Do us a favor, subscribe at youtube.com/HDNation or go to our regular website, revision3.com/HDNation.
That's right. And please email us your comments, questions, or suggestions, or post them right down below. And until next time, thank you for watching.